If you're thinking about selling a house in Nashville right now, there's one advantage you probably don't have anymore: the ability to dictate the terms of the deal. And here's how dramatically things have changed. In June, Redfin counted 129% more home sellers than buyers in Nashville. That's more than 2 sellers for every active buyer. And it made Nashville the second strongest buyer's market in the entire country, behind only Miami. But here's where that headline gets misleading, because I sell real estate here in Middle Tennessee, and I can tell you, there isn't one single Nashville housing market. A $400,000 house in Donelson is competing in a completely different environment than an $850,000 house in East Nashville. Franklin doesn't look like Columbia. Mount Juliet doesn't look like Hendersonville. And even 2 houses a few miles apart in East Nashville can have dramatically different levels of competition. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly where sellers are losing leverage around Nashville, where they're surprisingly still holding on to it, and most importantly, how buyers and sellers can actually use this information to their advantage. Because some of these numbers surprised even me. Let's establish the big picture first. According to Realtor.com, active inventory across the Nashville area was up 12.1% year over year in July. The median listing price was approximately $539,900, down slightly from last year, and 21% of listings had undergone a price reduction. Meanwhile, the typical Nashville area listing spent approximately 58 days on the market in July, almost 2 months. And then Redfin gave us a number that really got my attention: 129% more sellers than buyers. So imagine 100 buyers actively looking for homes. They're effectively choosing among roughly 229 sellers. That completely changes the psychology of a transaction. But here's the first golden nugget: don't use that statistic to judge an individual house. Because when you start breaking Nashville down geographically, things get much more interesting. Let's start inside of Nashville itself. Davison County entered July with roughly 6,835 active listings. That's up about 8% from last year. Meanwhile, pending sales were actually down 6%. And the median home is taking approximately 67 days to sell. Here's the number I really want sellers to pay attention to: nearly 6 months of supply. That is a fundamentally different environment from what Nashville sellers became accustomed to. But interestingly, the median Davison County sale price was roughly $480,000, basically flat from last year. And this illustrates something incredibly important: sellers losing leverage does not automatically mean prices collapse. You can have relatively stable home values while simultaneously having buyers negotiate much harder. That's exactly the kind of market we're moving through. And this is why I'm watching things like seller paid closing costs, repair and rate buy downs just as closely as sell prices. Now, let me show you why I don't like saying the Nashville market is doing X. Because looking at East Nashville, depending on which data set and time period you use, East Nashville looks pretty healthy. Redfin has recently shown homes selling around 2% below list price, with typical pending times around the 50-day range. Roughly 31% of homes have experienced price drops, and the median sale price over its recent measurement period was around $551,000, down about 6% year over year. That alone is interesting. But East Nashville isn't one market either. Look at the zip codes. You've got 37206, which is historic East Nashville, Laughlin Springs, and the surrounding highly desirable areas. Recent market analysis put the median sold price around $670,000 with approximately 2.1 months of inventory. That is relatively tight. Then you have 37216, which is Inglewood. The same analysis put the median around $530,000 with roughly 2.6 months of supply. Again, pretty healthy. And then you've got 37207, Cleveland Park, Dickerson Pike, and the surrounding areas. Median prices are around $440,000, but inventory was closer to 3.6 months. And here's the wild part: approximately 52% of listings that left the market in that analysis failed to sell. This is a huge takeaway for sellers. You can't say, well, my friend sold his house in East Nashville for $700,000. Well, where did he sell it? What zip code? What street? What condition? Was it new construction or was that old, very charming Victorian home? And how big was the lot? And what price band? That's the level of specificity you need now. During 2021, the market could forgive sloppy pricing. 2026 isn't forgiving it nearly as much. Now, here's something that surprised me. Donelson. If you look just at the Nashville headline and saw second strongest buyer's market in America, you might assume buyers have all the leverage everywhere. Not necessarily. Recent Donelson data showed only about 2.3 months of inventory. The median sales price over the analyzed quarter was roughly $423,000, and homes that actually sold were moving in a median of around 13 days. But here's the real interesting part. Homes under $400,000 were moving in around 9 days. Why, you might ask? My read? Affordability. There are only so many detached homes relatively close to downtown Nashville where buyers can still get it around that price point. Donelson also gives you access to I-40, the airport, Percy Priest, downtown, and a lot of established neighborhoods. So here's golden nugget number 2. The Nashville market is increasingly splitting by price band. You've got a clean $375,000 house in Donelson, you may have considerably more leverage than someone trying to sell a $750,000 product somewhere with a lot of competing inventory. That's why blanket statements like, it's a buyer's market, aren't enough. Now let's head south into Williamson County because this is where the story gets interesting. If Nashville is becoming a buyer's market, you might assume buyers suddenly have all the leverage in places like Franklin and Brentwood. That's not necessarily the case. Williamson County is still one of the most desirable and expensive parts of Middle Tennessee, and the best homes here can still move quickly. Franklin, for example, is still seeing average sales prices well above $1 million. But here's what I think is much more useful than the average price. The gap between a great house and an average house is getting wider. A beautifully updated home in Franklin in a desirable neighborhood with a great lot and priced correctly, that seller can still have plenty of leverage. But take a similar priced home that's dated, backs up to a busy road, has an awkward floor plan, or simply starts $100,000 too high. In that situation, buyers have enough alternatives that now they can skip it. And that's a major change we're seeing. A few years ago, the Williamson County address itself could overcome a lot of objections. Today, buyers spending $1 million or more are asking, if I'm paying this much money, why am I settling? And that's the golden nugget for Williamson County sellers. The higher price point, the higher the buyer's expectations. If I'm spending $1.2 million in Franklin, I'm not only comparing your home against the home down the street, I might compare it against a newer home in Thompson Station, more square footage in Nolensville, a larger lot in College Grove, or even a luxury home farther outside Nashville where my money goes significantly further. That's why I'd argue that Williamson County is becoming a bad seller's market. It's becoming a much less forgiving one. Great houses can still sell extremely well and very quick. Average houses priced like great houses, those are the sellers I'd be worried about. Let's forget about Zillow views for a second. If I'm selling my Nashville home, these are the 3 things I'm watching every week. Number 1, showings. Not views, not saves, but people physically walking through the door. If hundreds of buyers see the property online and nobody schedules a showing, it's often a pricing or a positioning problem. Number 2, competing inventory. What came on the market this week, what reduced, what went under contract. If 3 competing homes reduced their price by $10,000 and you didn't, your relative price effectively increased. Number 3, failed listings. This is a metric people rarely talk about. Don't only study what sold, study what didn't sell. Remember 37207? One analysis found that roughly 52% of the listings leaving the market did not sell. That tells me something closed sale comps can't. It tells me where buyers are saying no. If I'm representing a buyer right now, here's where my ears perk up. A house has been sitting on the market for 45 days. Interesting. It's had 2 price reductions. More interesting. It's vacant. I'm intrigued. It came back on the market after a contract fell apart. Now we're talking. And now, I don't say all of these things because I want to take advantage of somebody. I say them because the market conditions tell me there may be a deal for both sides. Maybe we offer close to asking price, or we ask for $10,000 in closing costs, a home warranty, specific repairs, rate buy down, a flexible closing timeline, and suddenly the buyer could be receiving $15,000 or $20,000 of economic value without the assessment ever showing that the house sold for substantially below asking. That's why looking exclusively at sales prices misses what exactly is happening. So are Nashville sellers losing their advantage? Absolutely. But the story isn't Nashville housing is crashing. The story is sellers can no longer assume that simply owning a home in Nashville gives them leverage. We're sitting in a metro where Redfin recently counted 129% more sellers than buyers. Davison County has approached 6 months of supply. Roughly 21% of Nashville metro listings had price reductions in July, and a typical listing is spending around 58 days on the market. But drive 20 minutes down the road, and this situation can change dramatically. A $375,000 Donelson house, an $850,000 East Nashville house, a $1.5 million Franklin house, a $600,000 Mount Juliet house, and a $425,000 Columbia house. Those are the 5 different housing markets. That's the golden nugget. So stop asking, how's the Nashville market? Start asking, who has leverage for this specific house in this specific neighborhood at this specific price? Because that's the question that can actually save or make you tens of thousands of dollars. If you're considering buying or selling anywhere around Nashville and you want me to run that analysis on your specific neighborhood, my information is down below. And if you're relocating here, subscribe to the channel because I'm going to continue breaking Nashville down neighborhood by neighborhood and show you what's actually happening beyond the headlines. As always, thanks for spending some time with me here in Music City. I'm Jamison Blackwell. Until next time.